Hello everyone, today we will discuss about glycogenolysis. It is the breakdown of glycogen to glucose. Lysis means breakdown. So glycogenolysis means breakdown of glycogen. The site is cytosol. It is initiated by the action of a specific enzyme called phosphorylase. Phosphorylase. Liver and muscle contain the enzyme. In liver and muscle, the enzyme can be in active and inactive form. Active and inactive form. And these forms are interconvertible. In liver, the end product will be glucose. In the case of muscle, the end product will be glucose 6-phosphate. Because the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase is absent in muscle. So glucose 6-phosphate cannot be converted into glucose. So in muscle the end product will be glucose 6-phosphate. So we will see the steps in glycogenolysis. First one is phosphorylase step. This is the first step, which is the rate limiting and key enzyme in glycogenolysis. Phosphorylase is the rate limiting and key enzyme in glycogenolysis. So first we need glycogen. Suppose this is glycogen. This is glycogenin. Suppose this is glycogen. First step is phosphorylase step. Glycogen phosphorylase. Enzyme is glycogen phosphorylase. This enzyme needs PLP as the coenzyme, that is pyridoxal phosphate. So by the action of glycogen phosphorylase, there will be removal of glucose molecules. The removal of glucose molecules one by one until the formation of limit dextrin. So limit dextrin will form from glycogen first. Limit dextrin means there is 4 glucose residues on either side of the glucose molecule. That is glycogenin. Here 4 glucose residues on either side. On either side there will be 4 glucose residues. It is called this limit dextrin. So by the action of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase, there will be removal of these glucose residues one by one until the formation of limit dextrin. Limit dextrin means there is 4 glucose residues on either side of the glucose molecule. Here in this glycogen, this is the linear molecule, linear chain, and this is the branching chain. This is the branching chain. Here the linkage is alpha 1,6 linkage, and in the linear chain it is alpha 1,4 linkage. So we got limit dextrin. So here, as it is nearer to the alpha 1,6 glucoside linkage, the action of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase stops. So by the action of phosphorylase, glucose is liberated as glucose 1-phosphate, not as glucose, free glucose. So by the action of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase, glucose is liberated as glucose 1-phosphate, not as glucose. So here, as it is nearer to the alpha 1,6 linkage, the action of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase stops. Then there comes the debranching enzyme. Debranching enzyme will come, and it has 2 functions. transferase and glucosidase function. Transferase and glucosidase. These are the two functions of debranching enzymes. This transferase enzyme is called alpha 1,4 to alpha 1,4 glucan transferase. Alpha 1,4 to alpha 1,4 glucan transferase. This is the transferase enzyme, and glucosidase enzyme is called amylo 1,6 glucosidase. Amylo 1,6 glucosidase. So these are the two functions of the debranching enzyme, transferase and glucosidase function. First function is transferase function or transferase activity. So the debranching enzyme, here debranching enzyme will act on this limit dextrin. So first function is transferase activity. It transfers trisaccharide unit from the branch point. This is the branch point. So it transfers this trisaccharide from the branching point to the linear molecule. So we can here it will transfer trisaccharide from the branching point to the linear molecule. So we will get glycogenin. Then here comes the trisaccharide from the branching point to the linear molecule. Now this point is free for the action of this glucosidase. So first function is transferase, it transfers the trisaccharide to the linear molecule. Second comes the glucosidase action. This glucosidase removes the alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage. This is the alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage. So the glucosidase activity or glucosidase enzyme removes the alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage, and so there will be formation of linear glycogen molecule. So only formation of linear glycogen molecule. That is, it forms only linear molecule. So we will get a linear glycogen molecule. As the alpha 1,6 linkage is split, here one molecule of free glucose is produced, because there will be no branching point. So we will have only this linear molecule of this glycogen. So we will get free molecule of glucose. Then again comes this phosphorylase action. Again this glycogen phosphorylase action, and it liberates or removes the glucose in the form of glucose 1-phosphate. Glucose 1-phosphate. So we got this glucose 1-phosphate. So what will be the fate of glucose 1-phosphate? The combined action of phosphorylase and other enzymes convert the glycogen to glucose 1-phosphate. Then by the action of phosphoglucomutase, this glucose 1-phosphate is converted to glucose 6-phosphate. Glucose 6-phosphate. And this glucose 6-phosphate in liver and kidney, a specific enzyme called glucose 6-phosphatase is present. In liver and kidney only, the enzyme is called glucose 6-phosphatase. Glucose 6-phosphatase is present. It removes phosphate from the glucose 6-phosphate. Removes glucose phosphate from the glucose 6-phosphate, and it forms free glucose. Free glucose in liver and kidney. That is the main point. And this free glucose is formed, and it diffuses from cells to extracellular spaces including blood. This is the final step in hepatic glycogenolysis, which is reflected by a rise in this blood glucose. Then in the case of muscles, the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase is absent. So glucose 6-phosphate enters into glycolytic cycle. This glucose 6-phosphate enters into glycolytic cycle or glycolysis, and it forms pyruvate and then lactate. So muscle glycogenolysis does not contribute to blood glucose directly, but indirectly lactic acid can form glucose in liver, that is in muscle. So these are the steps in glycogenolysis. Next we will see regulation of glycogenolysis. Regulation of glycogenolysis. First we will write here catecholamines and glucagon. First it activates cyclic AMP. This converts inactive protein kinase. Inactive protein kinase, that is R2C2 phosphorylase. Active protein kinase. Active protein kinase, that is C2. Then this active protein kinase that is C2, it phosphorylase the inactive phosphorylase kinase B. Phosphorylase kinase B to this active phosphorylase kinase A. Inactive phosphorylase kinase A. Phosphorylase kinase A. It is active. Then this phosphorylase kinase A in turn activate or phosphorylase the inactive phosphorylase B. Phosphorylase B, that is the active, to that is the inactive, then it is converted to active phosphorylase A. Phosphorylase A. Then it brings about glycogenolysis. So coming to the regulation of this glycogenolysis, we will see the activation of phosphorylase enzyme. Phosphorylase enzyme is the rate limiting enzyme in glycogenolysis. So this catecholamines, glucagon and thyroid hormones brings about glycogenolysis by increasing the cyclic AMP level. These all increases, catecholamines, glucagon and this thyroid hormones increases the cyclic AMP level in cells, which in turn activates the inactive protein kinase. Inactive protein kinase R2C2 to active protein kinase C2. So cyclic AMP, increased cyclic AMP activates the inactive protein kinase to active protein kinase. This active protein kinase or C2 in turn phosphorylates inactive phosphorylase kinase B and convert it to active phosphorylase kinase A. Then this active phosphorylase kinase A, with the help of ATP, it phosphorylates the inactive phosphorylase B to active phosphorylase A, and it enters into glycogenolysis. That is the first regulation. Then second regulation is activation of this inhibitor 1. Activation of inhibitor 1. That is the second regulation. Inhibitor 1. This active protein kinase A, that is C2, this active protein kinase phosphorylase the protein factor called inhibitor 1. Inhibitor 1, it is phosphorylated to inhibitor 1 phosphate. This is the active form of inhibitor 1. This inhibitor 1 inhibits this protein phosphatase 1. Inhibits protein phosphatase 1. This inhibitor 1 phosphate, that is the active form of inhibitor 1, it inhibits protein phosphatase 1. This inhibited protein phosphatase 1 in turn inhibits conversion of phosphorylase kinase A to B. It inhibits the conversion of phosphorylase kinase A to phosphorylase kinase B. This phosphorylase kinase A in turn phosphorylates D-phosphorylase B. It phosphorylates D-phosphorylase B to active phosphorylase A. So, second regulation is activation of inhibitor 1. The active protein kinase C2, it phosphorylates the protein factor inhibitor 1, that is inactive, and it is converted to active inhibitor 1 phosphate. This active inhibitor 1 phosphate inhibits protein phosphatase 1. This protein phosphatase 1 in turn inhibits the conversion of phosphorylase kinase A to phosphorylase kinase B. This phosphorylase kinase A in turn phosphorylates D-phosphorylase B to phosphorylase A. That is the activation of inhibitor 1. Next we will see activation and inactivation of muscle phosphorylase. Activation and inactivation of muscle phosphorylase. In muscle, this phosphorylase enzyme can exist in two interconvertible forms, that is active and inactive. Active and inactive forms. In muscle, the phosphorylase enzyme can exist in active and inactive form. So first we will see conversion of phosphorylase A, that is active, to phosphorylase B, inactive. Conversion of phosphorylase A to B. This A is active, B is inactive. That is phosphorylase A plus 4 molecule of water. This is active form of this phosphorylase. It is converted to phosphorylase B, inactive. Phosphorylase B inactive plus 4 phosphate by the enzyme phosphorylase rupturing enzyme. Phosphorylase rupturing enzyme, that is called PRE, PR or PR enzyme. It is a phosphatase. This is the conversion of phosphorylase A, that is active, to inactive form. So this phosphorylase A contains 4 molecules of phosphorylase A contain 4 molecules of B6 phosphate, and B contains 2 molecules of this B6 phosphate. Next we will see the conversion of phosphorylase B to A. Conversion of phosphorylase, that is inactive to active form, B to A, inactive to active, that is phosphorylase B or inactive, phosphorylase B inactive plus 4 ATP. It gives phosphorylase A. It is converted to phosphorylase A, that is the active form, plus 4 ADP by the enzyme phosphorylase kinase A. Phosphorylase kinase A, that is the enzyme which converts the inactive to active form. That is the conversion of this active and inactive forms of this phosphorylase. Next we will see the role of calcium in glycogenolysis in muscle. Role of calcium in glycogenolysis in muscle. This glycogenolysis increases in muscles several times immediately after the onset of contraction. Immediately after the onset of contraction, glycogenolysis increases in muscles. This involves the rapid activation of phosphorylase. Rapid activation of phosphorylase owing to the activation of phosphorylase kinase by calcium. The same signal that initiates contraction. This muscle phosphorylase kinase has 4 types of subunits. Muscle phosphorylase kinase. It has 4 subunits. That is alpha, beta, gamma and delta. We can represent it as alpha, beta, gamma, delta 4 times. That means it is a tetramer. Muscle phosphorylase kinase has 4 types of subunits, so that is a tetramer. In this, the alpha and beta subunits contain certain serine residues. Alpha and beta contain serine residues that are phosphorylated by cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. This beta subunit binds 4 calcium ions. Beta subunit binds 4 calcium ions. And it is identical to the calcium binding protein calmodulin. Calcium binding protein calmodulin. The binding of calcium activates the catalytic site of gamma subunit. Binding of this calcium in the beta subunit, it activates the catalytic site of beta subunit, while the molecule remains in the dephosphorylated B configuration. The whole molecule is in the B configuration, dephosphorylated B configuration. The phosphorylated A form is fully activated in presence of calcium. Then a second molecule of calmodulin can interact with the phosphorylase kinase and it causes further activation. Thus, activation of muscle contraction and glycogenolysis are carried out by the same calcium binding protein. So, here we can see one protein, that is calmodulin. We will see about calmodulin. What is calmodulin? Calmodulin is a calcium dependent regulatory protein. It is specific for calcium. Calmodulin is a regulatory protein, that is calcium dependent regulatory protein. It is specific for calcium. It is widely distributed in all nucleated eukaryotic cells. It is a heat stable protein. Heat stable protein, and it contains 148 amino acids. It contains 148 amino acids. It has high content of glutamic acid and aspartic acid. High content of glutamic acid and aspartic acid, and low level of aromatic amino acids. Aromatic amino acid. High content of glutamic acid and aspartic acid. And it lacks tryptophan, then cysteine and hydroxyproline. It lacks this tryptophan, cysteine and hydroxyproline. And it is a flexible protein with 4 binding sites. It is a flexible protein. It has 4 binding sites for the binding of calcium. It is distributed in 4 domains. These binding sites are distributed in 4 domains. It is homologous to the structure and function of this troponin C. This binding of 4 molecule of calcium in the 4 domains or 4 binding sites, it results in the conformational change, and it is linked to activation or inactivation of the enzyme. The efflux of calcium is associated with sodium calcium exchange protein, that is exchanging 1 calcium per 2 sodium ions. We will see the examples of enzymes regulated directly or indirectly by calcium, probably through calmodulin. These enzymes are adenylate cyclase, calcium dependent protein kinase, phosphodiesterase and myosin kinase. These are the enzymes. Next we will see there are 2 other pathways of glycogenolysis that are independent of phosphorylase. There are 2 other pathways of glycogenolysis that are independent of this phosphorylase. They are gamma amylolysis and alpha amylolysis. First one is alpha amylolysis. These 2 are independent of this phosphorylase action. So alpha amylolysis means glycogen by the enzyme alpha amylase. Alpha amylase. Here water. It is first converted into oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides. Then by the action of alpha glucosidase. Alpha glucosidase. For example, acid maltase. Acid maltase. Here also water. It is converted to glucose. This is alpha amylolysis. That is alpha amylase. Alpha amylase enzyme hydrolyzes glycogen first to oligosaccharides. These oligosaccharides are then broken down to glucose by the action of alpha glucosidase. One of the alpha glucosidase is this acid maltase. This acid maltase hydrolyze maltose, then this external branches of oligosaccharides and glycogen to glucose. That is alpha amylolysis. Next one is gamma amylolysis. Gamma amylolysis. Here glycogen. First the enzyme is gamma amylase. First it is converted to gamma amylase, here water, it is converted to glucose and it forms gamma dextrin. Gamma dextrin. So this occurs, gamma amylolysis occurs in tissues. This enzyme gamma amylase splits glucose from glycogen. It splits glucose from glycogen by hydrolyzing the alpha 1,4 linkages of glycogen branches and then forms gamma dextrin. So it hydrolyzes glycogen to glucose and gamma dextrin. So this glycogen is only partially degraded to glucose and it forms this gamma dextrin also. That is gamma amylolysis. Next we will say regulation of glycogen metabolism. Regulation of glycogen metabolism. This regulation is achieved by a balance in activities between glycogen synthase and phosphorylase. Glycogen synthase, that is in glycogenesis, and phosphorylase. This is the enzyme in glycogenolysis. Here it is glycogenesis, here that is glycogen formation, here glycogen breakdown, that is glycogenolysis. So the regulation is achieved by a balance in activities between these two enzymes, either by substrate control or by hormonal control or by end products. So phosphorylase enzyme, this phosphorylase enzyme is activated by a rise in cyclic AMP. Rise in cyclic AMP through phosphorylase kinase. This glycogen synthase is at the same time it is inactivated by the cyclic AMP through phosphorylase kinase. So both the effects are mediated through cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. Phosphorylase enzyme is activated by rise in cyclic AMP through phosphorylase kinase. Glycogen synthase is at the same time converted to inactive form. So both the effects are mediated through cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. So inhibition of glycogenolysis means it increases this glycogenesis, and inhibition of glycogenesis means it increases glycogenolysis. Both processes cannot occur simultaneously together. Then dephosphorylation of phosphorylase A. Dephosphorylation of phosphorylase A, then phosphorylase kinase A, phosphorylase kinase A, and this glycogen synthase B. Dephosphorylation of these enzymes, phosphorylase A, phosphorylase kinase A and glycogen synthase B is by a single enzyme, that is called protein phosphatase 1. Protein phosphatase 1. Dephosphorylation of this enzyme is by protein phosphatase 1. This protein phosphatase 1 is inhibited by cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. Cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. Through protein inhibitor 1. So, this is in turn inhibited by cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase through the protein inhibitor 1. Thus, glycogenolysis can be terminated and glycogenesis can be stimulated synchronously. Because both processes are depending on the activity of the cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. That is the regulation of glycogen metabolism. So, this is about glycogenolysis. This is today's topic. Thank you for watching.